My name is Kendra, and I'm 27 years old. The night I finally got the courage to sing in front of my town, they laughed, recorded it, and turned me into a joke the whole internet laughed at. Years later, that same town played my voice on the radio, cheering for a song they didn't know I wrote, because someone else had stolen it. But when the truth came out, the silence that followed was louder than any applause. I grew up in a small, weather-beaten town called Millstone, the kind of place where dreams go to die quietly. The air always smelled faintly of oil and rust from the factory that fed half the town, and people wore the same weary expressions, as if ambition itself was a disease. Around here, the idea of wanting more wasn't brave, it was foolish. And foolish was exactly what everyone thought I was. Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to sing. Not just sing in the shower or hum in the kitchen. I wanted to feel the stage lights on my face, to make people stop and listen, even for a moment. Music was the only thing that made me feel alive, but in Millstone, that kind of dream didn't make sense. My mother used to tell me, "Kendra, honey, music doesn't pay the bills. Don't set yourself up for disappointment." My father never said much. He'd sit at the kitchen table with his newspaper, nodding silently while my mother talked me down. He didn't believe in dreams either. He believed in time cards, steady paychecks, and quiet living. At school, it wasn't much different. The moment I mentioned wanting to become a singer, I became a punchline. There was a girl named Savannah. Perfect hair, perfect smile, the self-proclaimed queen of Millstone High. She and her little clique found endless amusement in mocking me. "Kendra, karaoke," they'd sneer whenever I walked by. "Sing something for us, superstar." I'd pretend it didn't hurt, but every word cut deep. I started eating lunch alone, scribbling lyrics in my notebook while they laughed from across the cafeteria. Even the teachers joined in, though they thought they were being kind. When I told my guidance counselor I wanted to study music, she smiled sadly and said, "You're talented, Kendra, but maybe think about something more realistic, maybe bookkeeping or factory management." Realistic. That word became a cage. It was their way of saying, "Know your place." So I kept my dream quiet. Late at night, when the house was silent, I'd sit by my window with a cheap guitar and a cracked phone, recording my voice in whispers so I wouldn't wake anyone. I'd play the same few chords over and over until my fingers hurt, until I forgot how small my world was. Each song became a secret, a piece of me that no one could touch or laugh at. Then came the Millstone Talent Showcase. It was the first big event of the year, and even though my stomach turned at the thought, I signed up. I told myself it was my chance to prove everyone wrong, that maybe, for once, they'd see I wasn't some naive girl chasing a fairy tale. The night of the contest, the gymnasium was packed. The air buzzed with chatter, and the lights felt hotter than the sun. My palms were slick with sweat as I held the microphone. When my name was called, I stepped forward, trying to steady my breathing. The first chord strummed shaky but true. I opened my mouth to sing, and that's when I heard it. A laugh, not just any laugh, Savannah's laugh. Loud, cruel, followed by a few whispers and snickers from the crowd. My voice caught in my throat. I tried again, but the sound came out broken. The laughter grew. My chest tightened, my vision blurred, and before I could stop myself, I ran off stage. By the next morning, the video was everywhere. Someone had recorded my breakdown and uploaded it with the caption, "Kendra, karaoke, bombs again." My phone filled with messages, some pretending to be sympathetic, most mocking me. Even kids from neighboring schools joined in. I deleted my social media and stopped singing altogether. It felt like the whole world had heard me fail. For weeks, I couldn't even look at my guitar. I avoided mirrors, avoided people. Every cruel word echoed in my mind until I started to believe them. Maybe I was just a silly girl from nowhere. Maybe Millstone was right about me. But one night, I pulled out that old notebook, the one with lyrics scrawled in pencil and tears smudging the ink. I flipped through page after page of songs I'd written about loneliness, about hope, about wanting something more. My heart ached reading them, but it also reminded me who I was before the laughter. That was the moment I made myself a promise. I whispered it out loud, just to hear it in the air. They laughed that night, but I promise one day they'll see my name everywhere. After the talent show disaster, I disappeared. Not physically, I still had to exist in Millstone, but emotionally, I went dark. I deleted my social media, blocked every number that sent me a laughing emoji, and avoided every place where I might run into someone who'd seen that video. My mother said, "Maybe it's for the best, honey. Some things just aren't meant to be." She didn't mean it cruelly, but it stung all the same. My father didn't comment at all. Just silence, which somehow hurt even more. I stopped singing, even when I was alone. My voice felt like a wound I couldn't touch. Nights stretched long and heavy, and the silence in my room was louder than any applause I'd ever dreamed of. But bills still needed to be paid, so I picked up a job at the Millstone Diner, the same one I'd gone to as a kid for pancakes on Sundays. It wasn't glamorous. Grease on my hands, coffee stains on my apron, and the constant buzz of neon lights flickering overhead. Still, there was something about those late-night shifts that soothed me. The diner was quiet after 11 p.m., and I'd hum softly while wiping down the booths, just to fill the emptiness. I thought no one noticed, until one night a regular customer did. He was an older man named Mr. Lyle, a retired musician who always sat in the corner booth, nursing black coffee and reading the newspaper. That night, as I hummed without realizing it, he said, "You've got something there, kid. You sing like you mean it." I laughed it off, embarrassed. "Just noise," I told him. He shook his head slowly. "Nah, that's the sound of someone who still believes. Don't lose it." We talked a little more after that, about his time touring with a blues band in the 70s, about the way music used to mean something before the world got so loud. The next week, he came in carrying a case. "Hear me," he said, sliding it across the counter. Inside was a weathered acoustic guitar, its wood faded and strings a little rusty. "I can't take that," I protested. He smiled. "Dreams don't die, people just stop chasing them. Don't be one of those people." That sentence stuck to my ribs like a heartbeat. Dreams don't die. Every night after work, I started playing again. My fingertips blistered, my voice cracked, but I didn't care. I wrote new songs, angry, aching songs about shame, about the people who'd told me I wasn't enough. I poured everything I'd bottled up into lyrics until it stopped hurting so much to sing them. One night, on a whim, I recorded one of those songs on my phone, just my voice and that old guitar, and uploaded it to a small music sharing site under the pseudonym Luna K. I didn't expect anyone to hear it. It was more of an experiment, a way to see if my voice still mattered to someone, anyone. A few days later, I checked the site and froze. The song had over 1,000 plays. People had left comments, strangers, saying things like, "This voice sounds like heartbreak and hope all at once," and, "Whoever you are, please don't stop singing." It was the first time I felt seen without actually being seen. Encouraged, I started uploading more songs. Each one did a little better than the last. I stayed anonymous. No photo, no bio, no clue about who I was or where I came from. It was freeing. For the first time, no one could laugh at my face or my name. They could only hear me. Then something wild happened. A clip of one of my songs made its way onto social media. A small influencer used it in a video, and suddenly my music was being shared hundreds of times. The comments were filled with people asking, "Who is Luna K?" Of course, not everyone was supportive. Savannah and her friends, who had no idea it was me, found the music and mocked it online. "Another wannabe pretending she's deep," Savannah posted. But this time, their words didn't sting. They were sharing my song, spreading the very thing they used to ridicule. The irony was almost sweet. A week later, I was cleaning tables at the diner when the radio played a snippet of my song. My heart nearly stopped. The DJ's voice came through, cheerful and curious. "We've got this mysterious local artist called Luna K blowing up the charts. If anyone knows who she is, give us a call. I'd love to meet the voice behind the magic." My hands trembled as I stood frozen, rag in hand. The sound of my song filled the diner, echoing against the walls where no one had ever cared before. For the first time since that humiliating night on the gym stage, my name, or at least my voice, was out there again. And this time, it wasn't being laughed at, but as the DJ's words replayed in my mind, "If anyone knows who she is," a chill ran down my spine. I knew what was coming. If people found out the truth, if they realized Luna K was me, Millstone's failed girl, everything could fall apart again. Still, a small dangerous part of me whispered, maybe it was time, because hiding could only last so long. The DJ's announcement changed everything. Overnight, "Who is Luna K?" became the question on everyone's lips, or at least everyone in Millstone with a phone. Forums buzzed with speculation. Some thought Luna K was a local college student. Others claimed it was a bored housewife hiding her talent. A few said she sounded too raw to be anyone famous yet. I read every comment like my life depended on it, terrified and exhilarated at the same time. At the diner, nothing seemed different on the surface. I still poured coffee and wiped counters, but inside, I was buzzing with electricity. After every shift, I'd race home to record new material, my voice echoing against the thin walls of my tiny apartment. The neighbors must have hated me, but I didn't care. It felt like my secret double life was expanding by the day. Waitress by night, Luna K by, well, also night. Money was the only thing slowing me down. I couldn't afford professional studio time, and my recording sounded grainy, uneven. So I started selling whatever I could. My old phone, a couple of vintage jackets, even a bracelet my father had given me years ago. I told myself it was an investment, not a sacrifice. Each dollar went toward a better microphone, soundproofing foam, and cables I barely knew how to use. When I listened to my first polished track through decent headphones, I cried, not because it was perfect at Wentenary, it wasn't, but because it sounded real. My voice had weight now, and my words didn't feel like whispers in the dark anymore. They felt alive. A few weeks later, one of my new songs, a stripped-down acoustic piece called "The Ones Who Laughed," exploded online. A TikTok creator used it in a video about self-growth, and within hours, the comments were flooded with people asking where the song came from. By morning, it had 500,000 views. My follower count jumped, and my inbox filled with messages from strangers saying how the song made them cry, how it felt, like their own story. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on my bed, watching the numbers climb, whispering, "Is this really happening?" Then came the emails. Small producers, indie labels, online personalities, all wanting to collaborate, to talk opportunities. It was surreal. I'd gone from being the girl who couldn't finish a song on stage to someone the internet wanted to find. But the more attention I got, the more dangerous it felt. Every time someone tagged Hanajak, "Who is Luna K?" I flinched. What if someone recognized my voice? What if Savannah did? The thought made my stomach twist. Of course, fate couldn't resist that bit of irony. One night, while scrolling through comments, I saw Savannah's profile pop up under a video of my song. She'd written, "Sounds nice, but everyone's a singer these days." A few laughing emojis followed. She still had no clue it was me. I should have been angry, but instead, I smiled. Let her laugh. For once, her voice didn't matter more than Mr. Lyle, though, wasn't smiling. When he came into the diner and saw the exhaustion on my face, he frowned. "You can't keep hiding forever," he said gently. I poured him his usual coffee. "I'm not hiding. I'm just staying safe." "Safe doesn't change the world," he said, leaning back in his booth. "You've got something worth showing. People deserve to know the girl behind the sound." His words scared me more than they inspired me. The thought of stepping out as me, as Kendra, the girl who once ran off a stage in tears, made my hands shake. What if the world only loved me because they didn't see me? What if once they knew who I was, the laughter started again? But the world, it seemed, wasn't waiting for my permission. A week later, I got an email from a local event organizer. They were hosting a small-town music showcase and wanted Luna K to perform live. "Your song has inspired so many here," the message read. "We'd love to have you close the show." I stared at the screen for an hour before replying, "Yes." The night of the showcase came faster than I expected. I stood backstage with my guitar, the one Mr. Lyle had given me, feeling my heart pound in my chest. The crowd buzzed beyond the curtain, and the stage lights glowed like molten gold through the gaps. Voices murmured in the audience. "Do you think it's a woman?" someone whispered. "Maybe she's famous already." I took a deep breath, sweat slicking my palms, the wood of the guitar warm against my skin. My legs felt weak, but I refused to run this time. The announcer's voice boomed, "Please welcome to the stage The mysterious artist everyone's been talking about. Luna, K. I stepped into the light. Every whisper stopped. My hands trembled so badly I thought I might drop the guitar before I even reached the microphone. The stage lights were blinding, hotter than I remembered, and the sea of faces before me blurred into one shifting mass of anticipation. I could feel their curiosity pressing down on me. The mystery girl, the voice behind the songs. They wanted to see if I was real, if the voice that haunted their radios belonged to someone worth believing in. I adjusted the strap on my shoulder, cleared my throat, and leaned toward the mic. "Hi," I said, my voice trembling just enough to betray me. "I'm Luna K." The crowd murmured, whispering the name like a secret being passed around. I caught sight of a camera phone flash in the front row and froze for half a heartbeat, but then I remembered what Mr. Lyle had told me. Safe doesn't change the world. So I strummed the first chord. My fingers were stiff, the strings biting into my skin, but the sound rang clear. The first verse shook, my breath uneven, but the melody found its way through the fear. I sang about the night I failed, about the laughter that filled the gymnasium, the humiliation that burned so deep I thought it would never fade. The words came raw and unfiltered, and I felt the emotion pouring out like something alive. Halfway through the song, something shifted. The shaking stopped. My voice steadied. I wasn't singing to prove anything anymore. I was singing because I had to, because those words belonged to me, and no one could take them away again. The room grew impossibly quiet. Not a single whisper, not a single cough. Every pair of eyes was on me. Some people lifted their phones to record, but even through the small glows of screens, I could see tears glinting. The same town that once laughed was listening now, really listening. Then I saw her, Savannah. She was in the front row, dressed to perfection as always, her lips painted red, her expression unreadable. For a moment, I thought I was imagining her, but then her eyes widened. I watched the realization crawl across her face, the recognition, the memory of the girl she humiliated in high school now standing on stage, owning every scar she helped create. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. I didn't break eye contact, I just kept singing. By the time I hit the final chorus, my voice soared. I wasn't trembling anymore. I was on fire. The crowd rose to their feet before I even finished the last note. Cheers erupted, thunderous, overwhelming. People were shouting my name, not Luna K, but Kendra. Someone yelled, "That's her! That's the girl from the video!" But this time, the tone wasn't cruel. It was awe. I took a shaky bow, blinking back tears. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I felt seen. That night, my performance spread online like wildfire. Someone had uploaded a clip of my song before I'd even left the stage. By morning, it had millions of views. Headlines read, "The hometown girl who rose from ridicule," and "From mockery to music stardom, meet Luna K." My inbox overflowed with messages from journalists, fans, and record label scouts. Mr. Lyle came into the diner the next morning holding the newspaper with my face on it. "Told you," he said, grinning. "You were never meant to stay hidden." A few days later, I signed my first small record deal with a local label. It wasn't glamorous, and the contract wasn't perfect, but it felt like a door cracking open to a world I'd only dreamed of. They wanted to help me release a full album, to bring my songs to life with real production. Still, beneath the excitement, there was caution in my chest. I'd worked too hard, fallen too far once before to lose myself now. So when the label rep slid the contract across the table, I read every line twice. I signed, but I whispered to myself, "Don't forget who you are this time." The next week was a blur. Radio interviews, local TV appearances, social media followers climbing faster than I could count. I walked through town and people actually smiled at me, not out of pity, but pride. I wasn't the girl who ran off stage anymore. I was the girl who came back. But success, I was learning, doesn't come without shadows. One morning, I was sipping coffee and scrolling through headlines when a new article froze me mid-sip. The title read, "Savannah Caldwell signs to same label as Luna K." My stomach dropped. My name, my stage name, right there next to hers. The past I thought I'd left behind was walking straight into my future, and I knew, deep down, that the real battle was only just beginning. I should have known peace wouldn't last long. Success has a strange way of drawing ghosts out of the past, and mine came wearing red lipstick and a camera-ready smile. Savannah Caldwell, the girl who once called me Kendra Karaoke in a crowded school hallway, had reinvented herself. She was now an influencer turned singer, according to her social media bio, and apparently the newest signing at my label. When I walked into the studio that first morning and saw her sitting on the leather couch, sipping iced coffee like she owned the place, my stomach twisted. She smiled sweetly when she saw me. Kendra, or should I say, Luna K. Wow, I always knew you had potential. Her voice was sugary enough to rot teeth. I forced a smile back. Did you? She leaned closer, lowering her voice. Of course, we were kids. I hope there's no hard feelings. The internet loves a redemption story, don't you think? I realized then that she wasn't here to make peace. She was here to rewrite history, to make it look like she'd always supported me, that our rivalry was just a silly misunderstanding. Over the next few weeks, Savannah became the label's golden girl. Her online following skyrocketed thanks to her glamorous lifestyle videos and constant selfies in the studio. Whenever executives came around, they praised her social engagement, her brand appeal. Meanwhile, my songs were labeled too emotional, too specific, too sad for mainstream radio. Every time I brought in a new demo, someone would suggest tweaks. Take out the rawness, simplify the lyrics, make it more like Savannah's upbeat style. The same vulnerability that had made people fall in love with Luna K was now being polished away. I could feel myself slipping into a cage again, this time a shinier one. One night, after another frustrating meeting, I found myself at the diner, my old sanctuary. Mr. Lyle was in his usual booth, reading the paper. I slid into the seat across from him and dropped my head into my hands. They're trying to turn me into someone I'm not, I said. He looked at me over his glasses, then stopped letting them. It's not that simple. It never is, he said quietly. But if you lose yourself in this industry, you'll wake up one day and realize you've traded your voice for a paycheck. And that's a poor bargain, kid. His words hit me hard. On my walk home, I replayed them over and over. That night, I picked up my guitar and poured every ounce of frustration, betrayal, and exhaustion into a single song. It was darker, sharper, more personal than anything I'd ever written. It was about pain, but also power, about reclaiming your voice when everyone tries to silence it. I recorded a demo late into the night and named it Ashes Don't Apologize. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but for the first time in months, the fire was back. A week later, I walked into the studio early to show it to the label team. But when I asked the producer about it, he gave me a confused look. Didn't Savannah already play that for us yesterday? My heart stopped. What are you talking about? He shrugged. The song, Ashes Don't Apologize. We loved it. It's already being prepped for her upcoming single release. It felt like someone had punched the air out of my lungs. I rushed to the file server and checked the metadata. Sure enough, the file had been downloaded from my private drive. My stomach churned. Savannah had stolen my song. I confronted her that afternoon, cornering her in the hallway. You took my demo, I said, my voice shaking with fury. She smiled faintly, almost bored. I don't know what you're talking about, Kendra. Music's all about inspiration, isn't it? Maybe we just think alike. Before I could respond, one of the label executives walked by and clapped her on the shoulder. Savannah, that new single is incredible. It's exactly what we've been looking for. He didn't even glance at me. I wanted to scream, to expose her right there. But I knew the truth wouldn't matter. Not yet. She had the following, the fame, the favor. If I accused her now, I'd look like a jealous rival. So I walked away. That night, I sat in my apartment with my guitar across my lap, staring at the blank page of my notebook. My heart hurt in a way that was almost physical, but beneath the ache was something stronger, resolve. She could steal a song, but not my story, not the truth that lived inside my voice. If they wanted a show, I'd give them one, a real one they'd never forget. And as I wrote the first line of a new song, one meant to expose every lie with nothing but melody, I whispered to myself, this time, Savannah, the stage will be mine. When Savannah's stolen single dropped, the world called it brilliant. The same executives who told me my song was too emotional were now praising her for its raw honesty. I watched interviews where she described writing the lyrics. After a moment of deep self-reflection, every word that came out of her mouth was mine, twisted into something false. I felt sick, but as her fame grew, something inside me hardened. I'd been humiliated before, silenced before, but not this time. This time, I wasn't that scared girl running off stage. This time, I would make them hear me. So while Savannah's label planned a massive promotional event downtown, I began building my own stage. Literally. With the help of a few friends from the diner and an old sound technician who owed Mr. Lyle a favor, we rented a community theater on the other side of town. It wasn't much. A cracked stage, flickering lights, a soundboard that looked older than I was. But it was mine. I designed a simple backdrop myself, just a single spotlight and a projection of a burning notebook behind me. I called the performance "The Voice They Tried to Steal." On the night of Savannah's glitzy event, I went live on social media from that little theater. No fancy outfits, no backup dancers, just me, my guitar, and my truth. I could see the viewer count ticking upward. 50 people, then 100, then 500. I took a deep breath and began. The song started soft, my voice barely above a whisper. I sang about betrayal, about people who smile while stealing your soul, about how sometimes you have to burn everything down to start again. The melody carried the same bones as Ashes Don't Apologize, but this time the lyrics were sharper, more direct. I never said Savannah's name, but I didn't have to. Every line was a mirror she'd have to look into. As I sang the final verse, I could feel the emotion clawing its way up my throat. Tears blurred my vision, but I didn't stop. I ended the song with a single line that came straight from my gut. My name is Kendra, and this is my story. For a moment, there was silence, just my ragged breathing, the hum of the old lights, and the faint echo of the last chord. Then, my phone started lighting up. Hearts, comments, shares. The view count shot past 10,000, 20, 50. By midnight, it was over 1 million, and that was only the beginning. People online began comparing my live performance to Savannah's single. They noticed the overlapping melodies, the identical chord progression, the matching lyric phrasing. Fans began posting side-by-side clips, my demo versus her track. The evidence was undeniable. Within hours, hashtags started trending. ND, Justice for Kendra, The Real Luna K, and, most painfully for her, Ini Savannah, stole the song. The internet did what it does best. It dug deeper. Old file timestamps, leaked studio records, and screenshots of Savannah's access to my shared drive began circulating. By morning, her reputation was in freefall. Comment sections that once worshipped her turned venomous. Her label, desperate to contain the damage, released a short statement claiming they had been misled by Savannah. By that afternoon, she was dropped. I didn't celebrate. Not exactly. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was reclaiming my voice. Still, I couldn't deny the satisfaction that bloomed in my chest when I saw her latest post. An empty caption under a black square. Meanwhile, my live stream broke every record the platform had seen that month. Millions of views, thousands of reposts, countless messages flooding my inbox. People from all over the world shared how my words resonated with them, how my story gave them courage to fight for what they loved. For the first time, I felt like my music wasn't just healing me. It was healing others too. Later that night, I sat backstage, the quiet hum of the old theater filling the silence. My hands were still shaking, but not from fear, from adrenaline. Mr. Lyle called, his voice rough with emotion. "You did it, kid," he said. "You took it all back." "I didn't think anyone would listen," I admitted. "They didn't just listen," he said. "They believed you." After we hung up, I sat there staring at the dark screen of my phone, exhaustion washing over me. Then a new notification blinked at the top. A fresh email. The subject line read, "We'd like to meet, Los Angeles Records." I opened it slowly, my pulse thudding in my ears. They'd seen me, the real me, and they wanted more. I looked down at my guitar, the same one Mr. Lyle had given me years ago, and whispered, "I'm not done yet." Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't hiding anymore. The first time I saw Los Angeles, it didn't look real. It looked like a dream someone painted in neon and gold, palm trees swaying against the sunset, endless traffic that glittered like moving stars, and a skyline that hummed with possibility. I stepped out of the cab with one suitcase, one guitar, and a heart that couldn't decide whether to explode or stop beating altogether. Los Angeles Records had flown me out less than a week after my viral live stream. Their message was simple. "We believe in your voice. We want to give you full creative control." Those were words I never thought I'd hear from anyone in the industry. After years of being told I was too much or too emotional, someone finally wanted me, unfiltered, unedited, unapologetic. I spent my first few weeks living in a tiny studio apartment near Hollywood Boulevard, writing nonstop. My new producer, Angela, was nothing like the label men back home. She was tough but kind, sharp enough to challenge me, but wise enough to let me breathe. "Don't chase perfection," she said during one late-night session. "Chase honesty. That's what people hear." With her guidance, I poured my soul into my first album, Dreams Don't Die. Every song carried a piece of the journey, the ridicule, the heartbreak, the triumph. I wrote for every girl who'd been laughed at, every person told their dream wasn't realistic. When the album finally dropped, I didn't expect much, but within 24 hours, it hit #1 on the streaming charts. I sat on my apartment floor in shock, watching the numbers climb while messages poured in from fans across the country. They weren't just listening, they were feeling. They shared stories of how my music helped them leave bad relationships, quit jobs they hated, start chasing their own dreams. It was surreal. Talk shows started calling next. I remember sitting under bright studio lights, microphones clipped to my dress, and hearing the hosts say things like, "Kendra, your story has inspired millions." I smiled for the cameras, told them about growing up in Millstone, about humiliation turning into motivation. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I wanted people to know that failure wasn't the end. It was the fuel. Of course, not everyone's admiration was sincere. Some of my old classmates resurfaced online, suddenly claiming they always knew I'd make it. Savannah's old friends reposted my songs with captions like, "So proud of our hometown girl," as if they hadn't been the ones laughing behind my back years ago. Even Savannah herself sent a vague public tweet. "Some people are meant to shine. Proud of you, Kay." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The music spoke louder than anything I could ever say. Instead, I focused on creating. I wrote between interviews, between flights, between sound checks. Some days I barely slept, but I didn't care. For the first time, exhaustion felt like proof that I was alive, that I was finally living the life I'd dreamed of. Back in Millstone, Mr. Lyle watched every interview, every music video. He'd text me after each one, "You looked confident," or "You hit that note perfectly." Sometimes I'd call him late at night just to hear him say, "Told you, kid. I always knew you'd make it." Those conversations grounded me when the fame started to feel too big to hold. I tried to take care of my parents too. I bought them a new house on the nicer side of town, away from the rust and smoke. When I handed them the keys, my mother cried. My father just nodded, eyes glassy but proud. We didn't talk much about the past, the disbelief, the discouragement. Some wounds don't heal with apologies, but I forgave them quietly in my heart. Months later, as my album's success grew, the label approached me about marketing ideas. They wanted something bold, something iconic. I told them I already had one in mind. I spent weeks designing the campaign myself. A simple image of me standing under a night sky, my name written in silver letters, Kendra, Dreams Don't Die. I wanted people to look up and remember that dreams were real, even for the ones who'd been told they weren't enough. When the billboards went up across major cities, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, I cried. Not because of vanity, but because I remembered that broken girl in the Millstone gym, running off stage to the sound of laughter. I wished she could see this. A few months later, I decided to visit home. I hadn't been back since my rise began, and something inside me wanted closure. To see the place where it all started, where I'd learned how cruel people could be, but also how strong I could become. The drive into Millstone felt surreal. The roads looked smaller, the houses older, but as I reached the edge of town, my breath caught. Every street corner, every storefront, every billboard I passed carried my face. My name, Kendra, was everywhere. The same town that once told me my dreams were impossible had become my canvas. And I knew, deep in my bones, that this full circle moment was just the beginning of something even greater. Driving through Millstone felt like stepping into a memory I'd outgrown. The roads were still cracked, the buildings still leaning, and that same smokestack still poured its gray haze over the horizon. But something was different now. My name, Kendra, was on every billboard and bus stop, stretching across the same streets where I used to walk with my head down. It was strange seeing the town that once suffocated me, now blanketed in my success. I slowed at the main intersection, where the old diner still stood, the same place where I'd scrubbed tables and dreamed of something bigger. A few people standing outside looked up, their eyes widening as they recognized me through the car window. I could see their mouths forming the words, "Is that?" When I stepped out, I felt every gaze turn my way. Former classmates, neighbors, teachers, all staring, some in awe, some in disbelief. For a moment, I almost felt that familiar sting of self-consciousness, the one that used to shrink me. But this time, I stood taller. A woman approached slowly, wiping her hands on an apron. It took me a moment to realize who she was. Savannah. Her hair was shorter now, pulled into a messy bun, and her makeup looked tired. The cafe logo on her apron read, "Maple in Maine," a far cry from the glitz and glamour she used to flaunt online. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then she smiled, small and uncertain. "Hey, Kendra," I nodded. "Hey." "I saw the billboards," she said, voice trembling. "You did it, really did it." "Yeah," I said softly. "I did." She swallowed. Hard. "Listen, about everything. Back then in school, the things I said, the way I treated you, I was awful. I was jealous, and I didn't know how to be anything else. I'm sorry." Her words hung between us like smoke. Honest, maybe, but too late. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't see the girl who mocked me. I saw someone broken by her own mistakes, still chasing something she couldn't catch. "I appreciate that," I said finally. "But I don't need an apology. We both became who we were meant to be." She blinked, eyes glassy. "So, you forgive me?" I shook my head gently. "I don't need to forgive you. I just need to move on." And with that, I turned away, leaving her standing there in the fading sunlight. It wasn't bitterness that guided me. It was peace. The kind that comes when you realize your worth no longer depends on the people who doubted it. That night, I set up a surprise performance in the town square. No tickets, no barriers, just an open space, a small stage, and my guitar. The same spot where the talent show had once broken me. I wanted to take that memory and rewrite it. By sunset, hundreds had gathered, old classmates, teachers, families with kids sitting on shoulders. My parents stood near the back, my father's arm around my mother's shoulders, both of them smiling with quiet pride. When I stepped onto the stage, the air felt heavy with history. "Hi," I said into the mic, my voice echoing over the crowd. "Some of you know me as Luna Kay. Some of you knew me before that, when I was just Kendra from Millstone, the girl who couldn't finish a song. Tonight's not about fame or revenge. It's about anyone who was ever told they weren't enough." The applause that followed wasn't polite. It was thunderous. I started with "Dreams Don't Die," and as I sang, I could see tears glinting in the crowd. My voice carried across the same space where it once failed me, only this time it was steady, powerful. Kids who hadn't even been born when I left Millstone were singing along. For my final song, I switched off the backing music and sang "Ashes Don't Apologize" with just my guitar. My fingers moved easily across the strings, every note a release of years of hurt and hope. By the time I hit the last chorus, the crowd was on their feet, clapping in rhythm, shouting my name. When the song ended, I closed my eyes and took in the moment. The cheers, the lights, the echoes of everything I'd survived. The stage that had once been my downfall was now my victory ground. As I walked off stage, a stagehand handed me an envelope. This was dropped off earlier, he said. I took it, noticing my name scrawled across the front in familiar handwriting. Shaky, precise. My heart skipped. It was from Mr. Lyle. I sat on a folding chair backstage, the sound of applause still ringing in my ears, and carefully opened the letter. The first line made my breath catch. If you're reading this, kid, it means I finally had to take my bow. The words in Mr. Lyle's letter blurred as I read them through a haze of tears. If you're reading this, kid, it means I finally had to take my bow. Don't be sad. I had a good run. You gave me something to believe in again. I only had one wish left, to hear you perform in person. I guess I'll have to listen from somewhere higher. Keep singing for the ones who stopped chasing. Remember, dreams don't die. People do. I clutched the paper to my chest, the applause from the crowd outside, fading into a hum. The man who'd given me my first real guitar, my first real confidence, was gone, and he'd missed the moment I'd wanted him to see most. The night I proved that everything he told me was true. The next morning, I drove straight to the diner, his booth still empty, his newspaper still folded on the counter. The waitress handed me a note he'd left there weeks earlier, just in case. It said, "Keep the music honest. That's how you stay alive long after you're gone." That became the seed for my next album. I told my team I didn't want another chart topper or flashy release. I wanted something real. So I wrote 12 songs about growth, grief, and gratitude, about how losing someone can hurt and heal you at the same time. I called the album Dreams Don't Die. When it came out, it hit differently. It wasn't just an album. It was a story, a promise, a thank you. Critics called it the soundtrack of resilience. Fans said it felt like hope. Every lyric was a piece of Mr. Lyle's wisdom. Every chord a love letter to the people who keep believing even when no one else does. The album soared, breaking streaming records across the country. It wasn't about fame anymore. It was about connection. People sent messages saying how the songs helped them through divorces, losses, bad days, broken hearts. My pain had become their comfort, and in that, I finally understood what Mr. Lyle meant when he said dreams live on in others. With the profits, I started something new. The Lyle Foundation for Dreamers. Its mission was simple, to support small-town artists who couldn't afford instruments, recording time, or even the courage to start. We set up grants, workshops, and open mics across rural towns, reminding kids like me that their voices mattered. I visited schools, standing in front of classrooms filled with wide-eyed students, telling them the truth, that I'd failed, been laughed at, humiliated, and that none of it meant I wasn't worthy. I'd say, "You don't have to be fearless to dream. You just have to be stubborn enough not to quit." They'd always clap, but it was the quiet faces, the ones who didn't look like they believed in themselves yet. That reminded me why I was there. When the foundation began gaining national attention, I knew exactly what I wanted to do next. I bought the oldie. Millstone Diner, the place that had once been my cage and my sanctuary, and renovated it into a music cafe. I named it Lyle's Stage. The walls were covered in photos of local musicians, and every night, someone new got the chance to play for a crowd that actually listened. At the grand opening, I played a short set, just me and my guitar. The last song I sang was one of Mr. Lyle's old blues numbers. When I hit the final note, I swear I could almost hear his gravelly voice from the corner booth saying, "That's my girl." My parents came too. After everyone had gone, my father approached me, hands in his pockets. "We were wrong," he said simply. My mother nodded, tears in her eyes. "We're proud of you, Kendra. We always were. We just didn't know how to show it." I hugged them both. The forgiveness wasn't loud, but it was real. Weeks later, I was driving out of Millstone again. The same road I'd once taken with nothing but a suitcase and a broken heart. Only this time, the sky seemed wider. As I passed the final stretch of highway, I looked up at the billboard that started it all, my face glowing against the twilight. The words, "Dreams don't die," shining above it. I rolled down the window, letting the wind whip through my hair, and smiled. Because in that moment, I understood that every insult, every laugh, every tear had led me right here, to the girl who once froze on a gymnasium stage, to the woman who now owned every stage she touched, to the dream that refused to die. And as the billboard disappeared behind me, I whispered to the open sky, they said my dreams were impossible. Funny how small people sound when your name is written across the sky. In the end, I realized it was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving to myself that I was always right to dream. The laughter that once haunted me became the echo that pushed me forward. My name on the billboards wasn't revenge. It was redemption. And every time I step on stage now, I don't sing to be heard. I sing to remind the world that dreams don't die. They just wait for the right moment to rise. If my story touched something inside you, don't let it end here. Share it. Maybe someone out there needs to hear that it's never too late to start again. And if you believe that dreams really don't die, tell me this. Have you ever given up on something you still secretly wish you'd tried one more time?